Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. There's Ivanka Trump giving Donald J. Trump a lap dance when she was 15 years old. We'll get back to this in a moment. So this is going to be an interesting video. I got a lot of Trumper comments from my video. Does Trump wear diapers and boop his pants plus tariffs? And at some point, MAGA fools will realize Trump effed them again. And so there's a lot of, I got 10 comments already. I have to go through the comments this morning, which I'm going to do before I get to this here. So there's this guy, Noel Castler, who worked with Trump. And my wife and I listened to the end of his interview and some other stuff. And he's very, he's going around to these liberal shows and they got their stupid liberal views. And, the guy's certainly not a truther. And he's not taking into account what a disaster Joe Biden was. He's like that guy. But his reporting on Donald Trump seems to be fairly accurate. He talked about how this is supposed to be from 1997. It's a concert, which I believe is a Beach Boys concert at a Miss Teen USA pageant. And what he said was that Donald Trump walked in on the dressing room of these girls here, and there's a story here in the Rolling Stone about it. It says here, time my Donald Trump's creepiness while he owned Miss Universe, from walking in on teen dressing room to joking about his obligation to sleep with contestants, Trump's storied pageant creep. This is all things that Noel Kessler said. Trump was forced to sell Miss Universe organization, which also included sister scholarship program Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, in 2015 after his incendiary comments about Mexicans drove broadcasters away from NBC and Univision. He says, I remember he said here, joked about sexually assaulting in the changing room and then entered the Miss Teen USA changing room. So these were teenage girls, and he walked into their changing room. This was something that the guy said, Noel Kessler said. I remember putting on my dress quickly because I was like, oh my God, there's a man in here. 3 other teenage contestants from the same year confirmed the story. Miss USA dressing room in 2001 she was contestant as well. This happened a number of times. He came strolling right in. There was a second put on a robe, sort of anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked. Our first introduction of him when we were at dress rehearsal, half changing into our bikinis. So he knew the thing. To have the owner come waltzing in and we're naked, half naked, very physical, vulnerable position, and then to have pressure of the people that worked for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him, and get his attention. And he says, I'll go backstage before every show, and everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else, he said. He bragged about it in Howard Stern. Like, this is like what a pig he was, right? You know. And he knew what he was doing because he bragged about it on Howard Stern. BuzzFeed, she mentioned an incident to Trump's daughter, Ivanka, who shrugged it off, says, yeah, he does that. So this is, Ivanka acknowledging it. And it was talked about that he was a sick puppy and these other things. So this is another article here where he says, Teen beauty queens say Trump walked in on changing. Don't worry, ladies, I've seen it all before. These are the teenagers here, probably 18, 19, 17, whatever it is. So going back to this photo, what this guy said was Ivanka Trump gave him a lap dance at a Beach Boys concert. And this was very common. And she's sitting on him like this is her dad. She's 15 years old. She's sitting on his lap, and that's really creepy, right? Extraordinarily creepy. And, just the whole thing and what he was doing there. And this guy said he was obsessed with Ivanka and he always wanted girls that looked like her. Of course, I'll play the video clip when we're done here of him saying that he thought that he would date her if she wasn't his daughter, this kind of thing. And she knew it. She knew he was attracted to her, and she used it, like doing things like this. Like, of course, we know about these various pictures here Here we go. Here. Just her sitting on her lap here, kissing him. Here, doing this here. I showed you these pictures before years ago. This is what he does. And they fact-checked the pictures. And, of course, they're all valid because he's, talked about himself in a number of places, right? That he's, this is what he does. So there's a level of creepiness there. So you can say, all of this stuff that's been said about him by this one guy and other people is, there's more people have come forward and said these kind of things. Of course, he slept with Stormy Daniels, who was a freaking porn star, and she was weirded out by it, and it's kind of made it a career of it. Like all these things we know about, right? And, this is a creep. He's an out-and-out creep, like just weird about stuff. And then what does that say about everything else that he is, right? And so this is what Donald Trump is. So let me play the clip of him and his daughter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a clip of some bizarre Trump shit. And then I'm going to read a comment, right, for one of his Trumper people. So I'm going to go back and forth and read these comments to each of these clips. Just they're not totally related, but just, the delusional nature of his people. And so let's get started. Let me go read a comment, and then we'll get into we'll start off with the thing with Canada first.
It would be really disappointing. Not really. But it would depend on what was inside the magazine.
If she posed, it would be fine. But if they put her picture on...
Yeah, but it depends on what goes inside the magazine.
Well, see, that's her gripe. That's this girl's gripe.
And
people assume there'll be nude photos.
Right, you do assume that with Playboy.
Okay,
but if there weren't, you wouldn't have an issue with it then. If they were using her to...
I don't think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop
You know what? You are sick.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
How
You're
terrible.
known for saying
Is that
outrageous
terrible?
things, Mr. Trump.
Who are you, Woody Allen?
Okay, so I'm going to read these comments in order. The first one's about Christianity. So there's a couple of comments I got today. One's about Trump, but mostly they're about the Christianity stuff. So I'll get to those at the end because those are interesting as well. But this is this person says this. What's embarrassing is you have barely grown over the last 10 years. And seeing this video, it's no damn wonder. We all knew the direction the country was heading between the Bushes, Clinton, Carters, and Obama. In fact, this corruption goes back over a century, and you give the least charitable assumption towards Trump's entire time. This person is saying that I haven't grown in 10 years because I haven't bowed down and worshiped Trump's feet as our Lord and Savior, right? Because he's, what I'm going to show you here today is the tariffs. We're going to get into this thing with a variety of, so a lot of this has to do with a lot of the clips I'm going to show you has to do with what I call the fake Christian Barbie truther. And, the issues that she's going to have and that all Trumpers are going to have is Trump's been really convincing. And I know he's been convincing. I'll give you the way he's just convincing. I mean, he's so narcissistic the way he talks and he's so braggadocious. But he still convinces people that he is some sort of business genius. But he's gone bankrupt 6 times. He's declared bankruptcy 6 different occasions. And he's had other issues, not paying his bills, other financial failures, Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump University, all these things, Trump brand. He was selling his name as a Trump brand, oftentimes not even being involved with the business. It's just smoke and mirrors. And there's, all the information that's come out about The Apprentice and the Celebrity Apprentice, how they built these offices because his offices were a mess. He didn't really have a whole team of employees. He didn't run a big business. Like, he was just a persona. He made himself into a brand, and he sold himself really well, but he was horrible at making decisions. He's impulsive. He doesn't think things through. He doesn't do research. And you can see it when he talks. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about most of the time. He doesn't even have a slight grasp of the bigger situation, he gets a little bit of information, like so many dopey people out there who think they're critical thinkers. He gets a little bit of information, and he has a lot of messed up things going on inside his internal world. He's a messed up person, so he's not like he's got great intuition or something. He's got a warped lens in which he sees the world, just like everybody else, but his is just like, he's really screwed up. So he's not good at making decisions. He's not good at reading people. He likes good-looking people. He says it over. He's a good-looking guy. She's so beautiful. This thing. Like, he's very predisposed to picking people he thinks are good-looking. He's very, superficial on all levels. And when he makes a mistake, he doesn't learn and grow from it. He just blames it on other people. And whatever happens now to this disastrous presidency, he's already got an out, which he says over and over again, Joe Biden is the worst president we've ever had. So that's Trump's out. Like, that's what Trump says about all these things. And so he keeps on saying it over and over again, that whenever he's called to task about any of these things, Joe Biden is the worst president we've ever had. You're going to see this as we go through it. But, the bigger problem here is that he is good at convincing people he's got some sort of, knack. But he doesn't. There's no history behind it, right? And so when you listen to him, you're like, yeah, he sounds like he's got it going on. And so all the Republicans that voted for him and many other people thought that he had something going on with the tariffs. Like he wasn't going to be stupid enough to impose them, or maybe he'd bully some of these countries into backing down. But that if they called his bluff, he wasn't that stupid that he would put tariffs on an economy which most people are screaming at Joe Biden for raising their grocery prices and expecting Trump to drop them because that's what they wanted him to do. And he said he was going to do that. But the pardons do the exact opposite. The tariffs do the exact opposite. And, now we're like, well, I'll show you the Canada thing in a moment. But the thing's a complete mess. And now people are realizing, or should realize, oh, my God, this guy's an idiot. When the Democrats try to say he's some sort of criminal mastermind, but also he's an idiot. No, he's just an idiot. Like Trump's a buffoon. Like I don't think they need either to handle him because he's doing like they want to take down the country. And I showed you that in so many videos. One recent video about him connected to the WEF that wants to make everything that you won't own anything by 2030 and you'll be happy about it. That's their prediction, and Trump will bring that about by collapsing the economy because Trump runs things into the ground. So they don't even have to handle him. They're letting Trump just go full Trump. And his stupid supporters, dopey followers, how long before they realize this guy's a dope? Because it's just there. He doesn't have some special plan with the tariffs. He doesn't even understand tariffs, right? He doesn't understand what they do, what the American people are crying about, which is the, inflation and prices. And then he's taking something that'll hike prices, right? And we'll get into it. I'll explain more about this as we go through. But this is where, it's obvious that Trump is not that guy. So what's embarrassing is you have barely grown over 10 years and seeing this video. It's a damn wonder. It's no damn wonder. This is, at some point, the MAGA fools will realize Trump effed them again. And it says, in fact, between the Bushes and the Clintons and Carter's Obama, in fact, the corruption goes back over a century. And you get the least charitable assumption towards Trump every time. Trump has the hots for his daughter, according to you. Well, according to him, right? I didn't make something up that hasn't been said by him, even though many parents say the exact same thing about their children, because in their eyes they are beautiful. They don't actually want to hook up with them. No, he said he would date her if she wasn't his daughter. She gave him a lap dance, and she's sitting on his lap it's a fuck. Come on, bro. I mean, I'm the one who hasn't grown. They say here, beautiful. Actually, want to hook up with them. You assume the assassination attempt was fake. You assume, okay. I assume it's fake. It's fake, right? And I think you guys will all come around to it at some point. Not Trumpers, but all the truthers. If the exact same thing happened to Biden. If the exact same thing happened to Biden, you would call it fake. Like all the people in truth community, they're called all these things fake because they look fake, even if they're not fake or they're only partially fake, or they handled it afterwards. It was like a real event, but they, what they did afterwards, they're fake. They look fake, staged. It doesn't add up, all the things that he said. It's fake as fuck, right? If anything's fake, his thing's fake. If you think any of these things are fake and staged, then Trump's fake. But the fact is that that all these truthers didn't even question when it happened to Trump. And Trump is, he was an actor. He was in movies and TV shows, and he did, WWE stuff. Like he already was into faking things like this, right? Like he wasn't, somebody who's foreign to. He always was trying to get into Hollywood and do appearances, like in the Home Alone movies. He does these things, right? He did that weird thing with him and Rudy Giuliani, where Rudy Giuliani was in drag. I'll show that clip. I think I have the meme. But he did this Rudy Giuliani thing. He's always doing fake stuff. You assume the assassination attempt was fake. You assume he's going to destroy the country, even though the country was already driving off a cliff. And somehow you take all the establishment hate that is trying to put him to jail and kill Trump. I said this, if you were listening to my videos, I said, tell me when he's in jail. Tell me when he's in prison. Tell me when he's actually dead. Because he is their biggest asset. We live in the world of Trump. Now, the U.S. is dominated by Trump right now. Whatever Trump is, the hatred towards Trump and the left, and the love of Trump from his dopey followers. They're both deluded. They both have TDS. What Trump has become in terms of an idea in people's mind. Like he's a Santa Claus. He's a, bigger than life thing that they've created. And the guy's a complete degenerate, bozo, disgusting pig, right? And people are focused on Trump more than anything else. Everything's about Trump. Everything surrounds Trump. They weren't going to kill Trump or lock him up. Why didn't they do it then? They failed because Jesus was protecting him? What do you think was happening there? So he could save the country? You think God wants to save this country the way it is? Look at it. Look at the people, all of them. Look at where we are. Well, look at what the kids are growing up as. These kids can barely function because of the internet and all of it. Kill him and Trump and all this try to put him in jail and kill Trump and all the anti-establishment actions he does, like exposing government fraud. And you fool yourself into thinking these opposing actions is both what the powers want. He exposes the fraud that the Democrats did whilst doing his own fraud. He's better at it. He's better at monetizing the presidency than Biden is. Him and his family made $2 billion from the Saudi Arabians. They got a $2 billion deal, Ivanka and Jared. That's why they're not doing anything with the presidency. Like exposing government fraud, and you fool yourself into thinking these opposing actions is both what the powers that be want to Trump is part of under control of said powers that be. You don't even know specifically what you want from a president, just vague desires that shift to whatever is more convenient for you to overdose on black pills. I don't want anything from a president. Like, I don't expect anything from a politician, right? I don't expect the government or the corrupt government and the dysfunctional system to save itself from collapsing. Like, it won't. It can't. It's just something that should happen. I would like it to be prolonged like everybody else. Like, I would like to be comfortable till I die, right? Fuck everybody else after that. But I mean, we all want that on some level, like on a selfish level. But the longer our system goes, the more damage it does for future generations and future generations of ourselves. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that's a very, whatever. It's a thing. It's a real thing. Based on everything that I've talked about, I'm not going to explain it here. But I believe in reincarnation, so all of us are coming back unless we get liberation. I feel like I have more work to do, spiritual stuff, so I don't think, even if I got liberation, I think I'm coming back on a matter of choice. I don't think my work is done here personally, whatever. So, and I don't know if I would be liberated, this possibility with the Sajmark system. I don't know. But either way, I think I'm coming back. And even if I'm not, we're all working towards something here. We should be. And, you want to see the place do well. And we're not doing well right now. And the only way we're going to do well is this materialistic system collapses, right? And so, this is a very important point because you need to be highly motivated to change and to be a spiritual person. Like things have to happen in your life to motivate you to go to God. Like people who are godly people, there has to be motivation. There has to be something inside them that repels them from the lures of the materialistic system. Like a post-apocalyptic world where you can barely breathe because the air is so fucked up and there's no food and you're miserable and material life is painful and you realize it's because we all screwed up the world and, people like Trump being the epitome of what's wrong with a degraded, materialistic, hedonistic society that is based in pleasures and, materialism and nothing to do with, disconnecting you from your soul and, wrecking an abundant world. I mean, this is, the motivation to be like, oh, we got to redeem ourselves. I mean, that's the teachings of the system that I subscribe to. And I don't, love it. Like, I don't love it, but I see the truth in it, right? Like, we all should. Like, that we're going in the wrong direction. And this guy's just blaming it on the Democrats or establishment people. Trump is a horrible person. He's a horrible, gross fucking person. He's a pig. And you're following a pig down a path of, like, what? That he's somehow like the Pied Piper of dumbasses, right? Right-wing dumbasses. All right, let me see if I can find the Rudy Giuliani thing, and then we'll go to the other clips. So let's start here with Trump and Rudy Giuliani. This is the mayor's inner circle press roast, now 2000. Now, in 2001, Giuliani is going to become a national figure. He's going to become the America's mayor, the mayor of 9/11. The big event's going to happen. And he's going to pop as a national figure. And he's going to try to ride that into his own presidential bid to become president. It failed epically because all he did was talk about the big event and how he's crucial to it. The guy also liked to do this here. He liked to dress up in drag. He did it, I think, twice, 2 different times on Saturday Night Live. I have the pictures for all that. I'm not going to show you. And he did it on multiple events. So he had 4 or 5 different outfits and characters he created. He loved to dress up like a woman. This is his thing. Like, this was his big event of the mayor's inner circle press roast. This is one of those bullshit press, roasting things that they do. And, where he comes out. And Donald Trump was a big supporter, right? And, this big event's going to happen in the following year. And Rudy Giuliani has an offices in Building 7, but for some odd reason doesn't go there. And then he's across the street. And people are looking for leadership, and they looked at him, they built him up. And Donald Trump, he was a part of this commenter, this last comment, the person was talking about the Bush family and how like all these things, the Clintons and the Bushes and all these people Obama has wrecked the country. He's a part of this. So was Trump. He was giving money to the Clintons and, hobnobbing with them. But Rudy Giuliani was a part of the Bush, Republican Party of those days. He was a big part of that whole thing that happened. And, Trump is here with them. And, this stuff happens here.
You're really beautiful. And a woman that looks like that has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe.
Okay, so Trump was a part of the big modeling industry and all the degraded things that were happening in New York City, where a lot of the degraded morality. Remember when 2016 rolled around and they started pushing this gender stuff, Trump didn't say boo about it. He didn't protest it at all because it was normal to him. He didn't have a problem with any of it. Now he's all, we can't let women play in male sports, but he was around that shit with the models and the Hollywood stuff. He had the connections with all these deviant, people. And he was a Jeffrey Epstein person. In fact, he had that whole stuff that he did with the Miss Teen USA, like all this stuff. He was like a human trafficker, according to various people. Trump's into it. He clearly was. Trump says he loves beautiful women, including young ones, and him and Jeffrey Epstein was, best buddies. And we'll get into Epstein in a bit here. And so, Trump was that guy. He was a part of it. He wasn't like against it. And then all of a sudden in 2024, he starts running ads against biological males playing in women's sports. And it's good that he did that. He reversed something that was bad but he was never against it when he was president the first time. And he wasn't against it here. Like, he is a part. This is the normal kind of stuff that they would do, right?
Maybe you could tell me what you think of this set.
Like, bro.
I like that.
This may be the best of all.
So he's nuzzling Rudy Giuliani's fake bosoms. Right? And even here, he's...
Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh.
Even here, he's a groper. Like, this is... he was known as a womanizer, cheating on his wives, all these things. This is what he was known for, right? And he's nuzzling the Rudy Giuliani's fake bosoms. The whole thing is weird and creepy. Rudy Giuliani being a part. I mean, the whole thing, right? It's just an absolute mess. This isn't, this guy.
Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try.
This is the guy that's going to save you. This guy. See, no one person could save you. We have problems where, even the most spiritual people have been compromised by this system because it's a sensory-oriented system that allures people away from their spiritual nature, destroys the family, all the stuff that happens, all the, the things with, money's a very, a civilization with money and the way that you can get, like, ultra wealthy. You can be a billionaire, a trillionaire even. Like, it's crazy amounts of wealth. And it just distorts people's view. And, the people who are the most wealthy are the most, like, fucked up people, right? People who are addicted, they're hoarders, and they become, like, demonic. And so, there's so many things wrong with our system. The family, all the fucked up people out there, all of us are fucked up to some extent. One guy can't fix all that. But certainly not this guy, because he's as fucked up or more fucked up than the average person. And, he's not your savior. Just because he can tell you how bad the other guy is and how much better he is than that other guy, that doesn't make him a savior. It makes him an opportunist, right? It makes him a grifter. So let's get into it here. What's the end of it? So then there's this.
Ed.
Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead.
So are there conversations between the administration and the Canadians going on over this tariff? Because the Ontario Premier says the next step is to cut off electricity to the U.S.
And the president put out a statement after seeing those comments and said that it would be there would be grave consequences imposed on Canada if they think about shutting off electricity for the United States.
Grave consequences, right? Grave consequences. We're at fucking war with Canada. I'll show you some more stuff. Let me develop this first, because we can chuckle about this twice. Keep that in mind because we're coming back to it, right?
Grave consequences imposed on Canada if they think about shutting off electricity for the United States of America and our citizens. And the president is also determined to ensure that we are depending on American electricity, not the electricity production of foreign nations, including our allies in Canada. As for conversations, there is...
Okay, so there's not enough electricity to go around. That's why you're buying it from Canada, right? Like, this is so fucked. But, we're going to get into the tariffs themselves in a bit. So these two different things, right? War with Canada is this bit, then tariffs are coming up. And, she's trying to defend the indefensible because we can't get all our electricity from America. That's the whole point, right? And so they're building some huge electrical plants for the AI in Arizona or Texas, wherever the fuck it is, remember? AI takes a ton of electricity, so there's going to be even more electricity demand. So does some Bitcoin, some of these crypto. There's going to be more and more need for electricity. And if Canada shuts off the electricity of these states, there are going to be massive power outages. And then, there's going to be war. Like, this is war already brewing. And so...
continued correspondence between the president's team, particularly Secretary Lutnick, and the Canadians as well.
In the market reaction, how do you sell to the American people then after they're looking at what's happening in the markets this week and say that the tariff policy long term is something good?
Well, just think about what the tariff policy long-term will do for our country. I think many of us probably grew up in small towns. I know at least I did. And
Okay, so we're going to get into this thing here. This is a separate thing I'm going to show you. We'll come back to this.
Just want to say, elbows up, folks.
Elbows up.
We're keeping our elbows up, bud.
In response to Donald Trump's threats on our economy and sovereignty.
Elbows up, Canada. Our sovereignty. You know, he wants to make them into a state, right?
The Elbows Up movement is catching fire online, inspired by a Canadian comedy icon. That's Canada's Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live, making the distinctive
Look at it, he goes up here.
Gesture and
elbows
mouthing
up,
that
elbows up. Mike Myers.
Rallying cry.
With Lady Gaga, Dream Team.
Elbows up. If it looks familiar, he did it a week earlier.
Boom. Let's do it right here.
The message is catching on with everyday Canadians and elected politicians.
Elbows up.
It's elbows up time. We will never kiss the gangster's ring.
Get those elbows up.
The term goes back to Mr. Hockey himself, Gordie Howe.
Gordie Howe.
Gordie was the sweetest guy on the planet, but when Gordie did elbows up, it meant people got black eyes and people lost teeth.
Now, as Donald Trump tries
That's losing teeth
to force Canada into a corner, Canadians seem to be taking an expat celebrity's lead to show they're ready for a fight.
Mike sent the message, and I've been hearing it all day. Elbows up, elbows up, elbows up.
So the added benefit of all
this guy.
This is for Canadians who either aren't hockey fans or maybe are too young or learning all about Gordie Howe. And
okay, so we're at war with Canada. Like, who thought in less than 2 months of Trump's presidency we'd be in war with Canada? This is an economic trade war, but it could end up in something worse, right? Because Trump is saying we pay $2 billion a year to defend Canada, and I'm not sure from who. But, like, you know, Canadian border, you don't want enemies on your border. That's what the whole thing with Ukraine. And what if Canada made a deal with Russia? I mean, there is, you know, Canada is close on the western side to Russia. They made deals with Russia, and they became a new trade partner with Russia, and Russia wanted to put missiles in Canada. Like, I mean, this is, you know, the breakdown. It's not going to get to that, but, you know, we're at war with fucking Canada. Like, this is Trump's mess, like, immediate mess that he's caused. It's not working. Like, Americans are going to be fucked economically, and he's losing support from, you know, even his most staunch allies. I had this video and I didn't bookmark it. I couldn't find it, but it was MSNBC or CNN using Ben fucking Shapiro. I have the clip from Ben as a way to say, look, Trump's losing support from even Ben fucking Shapiro.
Is another thing to say that Canada is some sort of deep and abiding national security threat, requiring widespread 25% tariffs on Canadian products. Canada, by the way, is the #1 trade partner with the United States. Here was President Trump yesterday saying there's no room left for negotiation. I wasn't even aware there were negotiations going on.
Look at Ben. Little Ben. Remember when Ben was talking about the music video or the song WAP, Wet Ass P Word, from Cardi B and that horse girl, whatever her name is, Megan Thee Stallion. And he was saying that wet ass P Word, he talked to his wife about it, and that's a medical condition. And she was like, don't worry about that, dear. It's not going to ever affect you. He literally said that. Don't worry about wet ass P Word because it's not going to affect you. And so that's Ben Shapiro. But here he is turning on Trump.
On the tariffs, is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight? And should we expect those Chinese tariffs, the extra 10%, to take
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
Now, again, I just want to know why. Like, well, what are we getting out of this? As American consumers, what do we receive from the tariffs? I understand the theory, which is that there are going to be a lot of companies that reshore inside the United States. And it's true, there will be jobs in those industries. But the thing about tariffs is that they have a discrete beneficiary and they have diffuse victims. In other words, there's a group of people who benefit from the tariffs and everyone else pays. It is essentially a subsidy from every other consumer in the United States to people in those industries that are now going to be making more money. And that is what it's.
It's going to cause a price war. We'll get into that in a second. But Ben Shapiro's turned on Trump's. And so, like, nobody thought Trump was going to do this. They thought he was just fucking blustering like he always does. And that he was smarter than this. but he's fucking not, right? Like they think there was always this sense that maybe he was some kind of economic genius because he's so good at bullshitting about himself and getting people to believe in him. But there's nothing there. He doesn't have anything inside of him. He's not good at anything. He's just he's a fucking grifter. Like, you know, I mean, the evidence of him being a grifter is he's the greatest grifter of all time. I mean, if you want to talk about his success, it's being able, he's a confidence man. He gets people to have confidence in him, and he has zero to offer. Nothing, no skills, no knowledge, no abilities. And so he just found out about tariffs in his first term. Like, he wasn't about tariffs for things that matter to him as a builder. If he found out that steel and concrete and these other things or whatever's, you know, the prices were going up because of tariffs, he would have been whining about them as a businessman, like all the business people are whining to him about now. But he, you know, he as president, he thought he could get leverage, and Canada's like, fuck you. You know, go ahead, put tariffs on us, because they know that they can rally their people. The people aren't going to want to cave to him because they don't like him, right? They're all fucking the liberal parties there, dominant, whatever. They don't like Trump as it is, and they're not going to cave to him. They can look at it. It's a rallying cry for Canada, and they'll just suffer whatever they're going to suffer. Where the Americans don't want any part of this. We don't want fucking war with Canada, and Americans are worried about fucking grocery prices, and Trump was supposed to deliver on that because that's why he was elected. You know, like he's like batshit crazy. He's so incompetent, right? He's a fucking boob. And so let's get to the tariffs, but first I'm going to read another comment here. Okay, let me find the next comment. Here. That's not it. There was a couple comments here that were from the AI bot. Here it is. I'm not here. So the name of the video was, at some point, MAGA fools will realize Trump F them again. Not here to watch the video, only to hear the comment. Well, that's always the best kind of person, right? I'm not here to watch the video at all. I'm just here to fucking comment on the title. Not here to watch the video, only here to comment. I didn't realize he fooled me the first time. Oh, you didn't? Well, you're bragging about that, are you? You're not. You didn't realize he fooled you about Operation Warp Speed, or the way he got worked on COVID, and closed down economy, and then rolling out all those, you know, those bullshit, COVID fucking whatever they call those bailouts, right? The bailouts that cost $6 trillion worth of bailouts that add that to the national debt. You weren't aware of that, or the way he got worked on the election, the way he brought in censorship, the whole January 6th thing, the way he got worked on that. You know, Trump gets worked on everything. Like, I don't think he's aware of it. They just know how to handle the guy. And he got worked on all that stuff, and all the people, even the QBs, when Trump, and then turning on the January 6th people after riling them up. And you didn't think Trump fucked you on that? Like, you didn't, none of you guys, you didn't think he worked you? Like you didn't have some loss of faith? I know, like, some of the Trumpers did. So you're oblivious to that, right? And you're fucking proud of it. Well, I didn't even know he fucked me the first time. I didn't fucking know. I knew something hurt. I know he lured me into the closet, and I know I couldn't sit down for a week, but I wasn't aware that he fucked me the first time. I mean, you know, I didn't know what was going on back there. Jesus Christ. I didn't know he fucked me the first time. And so he did it then. It showed that he was an incompetent boob. And I said, like, he should be done. Like, the Trumpers should never let this guy. But, of course, they did. Because Biden was sucky. And, you know, Trump, you know, redeemed himself in their eyes one way or another. And some people didn't even know. Like, and they're so oblivious to these things. They don't listen to any other point of view. You know, Trump said he could shoot someone in the face at Fifth Avenue. And you're proud of that shit? That's a bunch of sheeple? Like, this is the guy you're gonna die for. You're gonna draw a line in the sand over Trump. And then obviously he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing with tariffs. So let's get into it here. Let's get into the tariff stuff. I didn't know he fucked me the first time. Okay, pumpkin. It's all right. Go back to sleep. Everything's fine. Okay, so before we get into the tariffs, which this is part of it, there's the Trump session, right? Which MSNBC, I made a whole video, is gloating over the Trump session because it's completely based on the tariffs and his other economic policies. And this is what he's supposed to be good at, right? And he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and they're in heaven, right? Because, this is Trump going full Trump.
They're very happy.
Mr. President, your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seemed to rattle the stock markets. The Commerce Secretary said there wouldn't be one.
Boom, just so you know.
Just specifically on
I think this country is going to boom. I think it is. You don't fucking know, right? Like, if you're going to do something like this, you're going to destroy relationship with Canada. Like, this is like a fuck you to Canada. And I've never heard anybody say Canada was screwing us over. Like, I've never heard any politician or anybody say that we were getting an unfair deal with Canada. Like, Trump is saying that all the other politicians before him were allowing Canada to take advantage of us, right? Which nobody, like, I have no way of knowing. Like, I'm not an economist and I'm not going to look into this, but, he's basing this in, like, he said shit like this. He talks shit all the time. Oh, you're screwing me over. He would negotiate with his vendors. He would renegotiate with them. Like, there's a scene from the Succession story, the TV show The Succession on HBO. Is, I think, the first season, and they're going to one of their multiple homes. Like, they're going to, some home maybe by the ocean or whatever it is, and the whole family's flying in on choppers. Some big ass palace like place. These billionaires. The media family is supposed to be like Rupert Murdoch. And they're flying in, and they get there, and the house smells. And it turns out that somebody had stuffed raccoons in the chimney, and they've all rotted, and their corpses are stinking up the whole house. And he finds out it's a contractor who he wasn't paying, the guy who runs the family. And he goes to the guy outside, and he confronts him. And he says, he owes him $200,000. He goes, I'm going to give you $100,000. And the guy's like, because of he's going to take it down by $100,000. And the guy's like, fuck you, this stuff. He goes, and the guy says, my lawyer is the president's lawyer. Who's your lawyer? Right? Like, he's saying he's got a better law firm and he's got more money and he's going to put it into, this guy's not going to pay anything. So the guy's got to accept $100,000 less than he was owed because the other guy's so rich, right? You think a rich person would be willing to pay, and they're not, because they're fucking greedy and they're hoarders. And this is Donald Trump. And, everything that I've heard about Trump, including from a barber in Nevada, Vegas, a very Republican barber, who said that he heard from all these vendors that Trump screwed them over. Like, Trump wouldn't pay his vendors. And he would renegotiate the things, right? And he would bully them, and they didn't have any choice. So this is how Trump does the art of the deal. He bullies people from a position where he has better lawyers, he has more money, he has whatever. More, he's more famous, whatever he is, right? And it doesn't work on the national stage with these fucking tariffs because the guy's a fucking bonehead. He doesn't understand what he's doing. And so there is a Trump session now going on because of his dumb-ass policies, because he's a fucking guy that's head up his ass, right? And here.
On the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I
don't see it at all. I don't see it at all. Like, Wall Street just collapsed, right?
He's going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater.
Mr. President.
Okay, so he's not addressing the recession or his dumbass policies because he's lost face. And Trump, this is a big thing for Trump. He's embarrassed himself. He shows everybody, he showed his ass here. He shows that he doesn't know anything. Like, he's a fucking flim-flam, man. This is where the grifter gets caught because the grifter doesn't know what the fuck he's doing in terms of a grifter gets hired for a job he doesn't know. It's like that Catch Me If You Can movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. And Leonardo DiCaprio fakes like he's a doctor. He gets he prints, he's faking like he's a pilot. He's making all this money. He decides to settle down this, city as a doctor in a hospital. And he sees all these nurses and stuff, right? Remember that scene? And then he's there, and he's a doctor, and he's supposed to be running the hospital floor, and there's like real shit happening, and he knows nothing about being a doctor, right? Like, this is the grifter. This is that grifter here.
And remember, Trump is always right.
Trump is always right.
And remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to Americans?
You look at what I've
The
said.
hat. Just because you have dumbass supporters who who are desperate and, they're not capable of seeing through your bullshit, think that Trump is always right. You're not always right. You're wrong almost all the time. He's been wrong his whole life. Like, someone who's always right doesn't go bankrupt 6 fucking times, right? Trump is wrong on everything. Was he right when he gave Clintons money? He used to give the Clintons money. He used to be a Democrat. Was he always right then? Was he always right when he did Trump Water or Trump Steaks or Trump University or any number of his other failed businesses? Right? Like, he's wrong most of the time.
Said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it. We're going to make America great again. To make it great, you have to have jobs, you have to have factories, you have to have. I look at some of the things that, like this last.
I'm going to wait till we get to the Barbie truther, the Barbie fake Christian Barbie in a second. But this is it. Anybody who knows anything about the economy and tariffs understand that this is bullshit, right? It can't work. Even Ben Shapiro says that there are people who benefit from tariffs, and we'll tell you who those people are in a moment.
Administration. He was the worst president in the history of our country.
See, this is what he says over and again.
He was the worst president in the history of our country.
Like, how long is that going to last, right? When the grocery prices go up even more, and the tariffs, like, this is not getting better, and the Republican allies are like, oh my God, you're full of shit. Like, I didn't think you were going to actually go through with this, right? Like, fucking.
Nothing was happening. Nothing. He had no idea what was going on. Our country went to hell. And then to allow millions of people to come in that are prisoners and mental institution patients and all of the things, gang members, drug lords, we're searching them all down now, trying to get them out of our country. And we're going to do that.
Okay, so what does this have to do with the recession?
But on the financial end and the economic end, what we're doing is, to me, it's the most exciting. Our country will be greater than ever before, and it won't take...
Again, that's just bullshit stuff, right? These are just bumper stickers. It means nothing.
Doing is, to me, it's the most exciting. Our country will be greater than ever before, and it won't take too long.
And what's your message
It won't take too long.
to Americans right now, sir, who are
Yeah, but he's going to run because he knows they're fucked, right? He knows he can't. This is the grifter getting caught and embarrassed. And he just says these things, making promises that, pretty soon even his staunchest reporters aren't going to fucking believe anymore. I don't know. The Trumpers are Trumpers. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Some of them will, the ones that are just like, dipping their toe in the water of Trump, which, is why he won the swing states. They're already bailing on him. And then, all the rest of them. Like, the people want grocery prices to come down, and he won't answer the question. Like, he won't say anything about grocery prices. He won't say it because he doesn't have a fucking plan, and terrorists don't do anything for that. Okay, so before we get into Caroline Levitt, the fake Christian Barbie, this MSNBC did this little hit piece here on him.
A vote for Trump means your groceries will be cheaper. It'll also bring your grocery bill way down. I have more complaints on grocery. The word grocery, it's sort of simple word, but it sort of means like everything you eat. The stomach is speaking. It always does. And
it always does. My stomach, I have regular fucking conversations. I go, what's up, bro? Let's go get some Big Macs. Okay, bro. We'll go do that.
I have more complaints about that. Bacon and things going up double.
Bacon. Exactly.
Triple, quadruple. I haven't seen Cheerios in a long time. I'm going to take them back with me. Bacon is through the roof. They're all through the roof.
Bacon. You sent to bacon and Cheerios.
Milk. Everything is bad. And we're going to straighten it out. We're going to bring prices way down. And
it's eggs that people are freaked out about more than anything else.
Get it done fast.
Now, Trump tells Time magazine that while he wants to make groceries cheaper, it's, quote, hard to bring things down once they're up. It's very hard.
A vote for...
So he was talking about doing it almost on day one. But he hasn't done anything to bring down grocery prices. He's nothing. And he can't because the inflation, instability, and him and Elon Musk are bringing instability. Whether what they were actually doing something good or not, it's still unstable. But then his policies are completely pro, not bringing grocery prices down, right? And these are things that are going to benefit the wealthy, which is what everybody said All the Democrats said, but people didn't believe them. And, you know, Democrats suck and they're not trustworthy, and Joe Biden sucked. But MSNBC gets to be right now because Trump, you know, is failing on this, right? Even so much so, let's go to this one here.
Into effect a 25% tariff against America's closest trading partners, and economic experts say prices could rise as a result. Thanks for joining us for this late edition of Fox 43 News at 10. I'm Evan Forrester.
And I'm Amy Lutz. Fox 43's James
Amy Lutz is there.
Corrigan has reaction and the possible implications of the tariffs again.
Like, why wouldn't you change your name if it was Lutz? Like, how proud are you about being a Lutz? Like, that you... I'm a Lutz. Like, their names, they're just like, probably you should change, right? You know, Trump is a great name, but isn't his real name. It's Drumpf, right? They changed it from Drumpf. And, then, you know, he's really a Drumpf, and he wouldn't get elected if he was a Drumpf.
Against Canada and Mexico, along with an increased tariff on China.
The 25% tariffs against Canada and Mexico from President Donald Trump have gone into effect. And some experts say the impact to the wallets of South Central Pennsylvanians could be significant.
Regular folks like you and I would see higher prices at grocery stores and all other stores.
Pavlo Buri is an economic...
Okay, so we know it. Like, this is a local Fox News people. And they all realize they're, you know, this is like, you know, we know what tariffs do. And they don't bring down prices, they raise prices. It's, you know, and I'll get into that as we get to the fake Barbie truther here. Okay, so this is the same video clip. I'm going to show you the video clip once, but it's featured 4 different times. So this one is from Forbes magazine. Forbes is very Republican. It has mostly videos that promote Trump and the Republican Party. But this one says here, shock moment, Levitt tells AP reporter she regrets calling on him. Intense briefing moment. And this one, Carolyn Levitt asked, how far does stock markets have to fall before the president changes course? I'm going to show you this is not the same clip. Ignore that one. But this one, this is why you don't F with Trump's White House press secretary. It's the same clip as the one Forbes says she regrets asking the AP reporter because he asked her a real question, and her defense is like silly. And this is where I saw it first on MSNBC. She's either tragically uninformed or lying. Nicole Wallace gets to shit all over her because she says something really stupid, right? And so, but this dumbass Trump person says, this is why you don't F with Trump's press secretary, because, you know, she's misreading the whole thing. So let me show you the clip here. So I'll get into that exchange in a moment. First, we're going to go here. It's the same press conference, and it's the same part of the same thread.
Thanks, Caroline. Just back on the markets, you said that what we're seeing this week right now on Wall Street is a snapshot of a moment in time. But does the president think he bears any responsibility for the turmoil in the stock market this week?
Look, the president is unwavering in his commitment to restore American manufacturing and global dominance. And I think he doubled down on that this morning with his new statement and the tariffs that will be implemented tomorrow on steel and aluminum.
Okay, so, look. That is not a happy fucking face here, right? That is not a happy fucking face. That is not somebody who just is confident in what you just said, right? Because this is the telling moment here. And I'll get into this more as we get into the other clip. But the reporter said he doesn't pay attention to Wall Street prices. He is dominated by Wall Street his whole life. Wall Street's a big part of everything, you know, for him. And he is guided by Wall Street. It's one of his handlers. And he knows he fucked up. Like, now it's like, how do you get out of this thing and not look like a complete bonehead? He fucking can't, right?
And he has said recently he's not looking at the market. He said you can't really watch the stock market, but all of the gains since Election Day have been erased in the S&P 500. At what point, how far do stocks have to fall before the president considers it a factor and changes course?
Again, as I just said, the president will look out for Wall Street and for Main Street, just like he did in his first term. And people on Wall Street and Main Street should bet on this president. He's doing what's right for this country.
No, we already bet on him. Okay, so, like, there's no, you know, we already know what a piece of shit he is. Like, kind of everyone knows that at some level. And, you know, like, he fucked us, right? Like, this is the whole, you know, the guy, I didn't know he fucked us, right? I don't know. I don't know. They don't know he fucked me the first time. How am I going to know he fucked me the second time? Right? I'm not here to comment on. I'm not here to watch the video and learn something and change my worldview. That would be too hard for me. I'm just going to comment on the title. Guess what, buddy? I didn't even know he fucked me the first time. So there. So let's go to the big comment here. So again, some person put this up. This is why you don't F with Trump's White House. Fuck with Trump's White House. Like, why am I beeping like this? Whoa, this is why you don't fuck with Trump's White House press secretary.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome.
If we could just step back for a second. When President Trump last addressed the BRT when he was on the campaign trail, his big push was on tax cuts. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not
and
true.
I'm curious.
Not true. A tax hike in the form of tariffs.
He's not doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people.
Okay, so let's get into that, right? And we're going to replay this. But she said they are a tax hike for foreign countries and a tax cut for American people. And, like, that's just, like, this is where your guy is fucked up. Like, this White House press secretary, his policies are fucked, and you're just going to come out and gaslight everybody and, just fucking lie straight to their face. So every economist knows, everybody knows anything about tariffs, is that the tariff gets passed on to the consumer. So whatever goods that you are buying, imported goods, whatever you're buying from China or Canada or things that are made from stuff from China and Canada, anything that's imported that has a role in what you're spending is going to go up in price. It's like a fact. It's not a tax hike on the American people, but it's going to affect what you buy. You're going to pay more money. It's going to affect you in some way. And my wife was saying, we were talking about this, and she said, like, let's say you get steel from Canada, and Trump puts a tariff on steel. Big tariff on steel, and they stop importing steel. The price of domestic steel now goes up because there's less on the market. And so if Canadian steel is gone up in price because of the tariff, then American steel will be the same price because that's how economics works. And this was what Ben Shapiro was saying. It benefits American steel. These companies that are now going to make American cars in America, they're going to benefit from Trump's tariffs, so they're psyched about it. And maybe they're not because they know that people aren't going to spend an extra $40,000 for a car. I mean, it's crazy amounts of money. But they're the only ones who are going to benefit from it, and no one else will. And certainly the American consumer isn't. And so for her to come out and fucking lie in this cultish way, everyone knows what tariffs, like the Ben Shapiro's fucking bailing on you, bitch, right? I want to use the R word and the C word for this exchange for her. Because before she was just dopey and fake and all those things. But now she's blatantly lying. So let's watch this again here.
As he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not
and
true.
I'm curious
He's not doing
why
that.
he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people, and the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on...
he campaigned on it because he's just like all politicians. Whatever they campaign on, they will definitely do, right?
Taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
Okay, so she gets really C-wordy at the end, and just the whole thing that's just incredibly stupid that you would come out and that would be your position, because everybody knows, all the Republican economists know that tariffs get passed on to the American people, and manufacturing coming back to America, the only way to do that is to devalue the currency. The reason that Chinese imports are less expensive is because labor, the currency, the Chinese currency and labor is so cheap there. They're paying people $1 a day. And so they're paying nothing in labor costs. Plus the currency is so low compared to America that they can afford to sell things cheaply to America because of the population, the workers and all that. But for American, like you have these European goods, like Germany has some of Germany I think is the highest level in terms of currency. The European countries are valued higher than the dollar. They can't export shit. So they export things like, like expensive cars and watches like Rolex. I don't know where Rolex are made, but these countries, the high-end items that rich people buy. And Europe is a small country, so their high-end items, their exports are, high-end, and they have, some of them have like 10 million people in their whole population. So they don't need big exports, but they can import things cheaply because their currency has such a high value. It gets pegged against the dollar. It's higher in value than the dollar. But the dollar would have to come down to have manufacturing so we could export things so that we could compete with these countries that have low currency value. So you either have to get hyperinflation and devalue the American currency, which is going to fuck the American people, or have no trade. And the trade isn't about tariffs. The trade is about the value of your currency and how much it costs to make things in America where there's labor laws and shit like that, as opposed to these countries that don't have those things. And so everybody fucking knows that. And for her to come out and just blatantly lie, and, I don't know better, and I'm insulted, and, fuck you. Like, just, this is the the fake Christian Barbie. And she knows, they all know that this policy is a disaster. And they don't know what to do about it because he can't fuck, he's already fucking ass deep in this thing, right? He's like, he's fucking balls deep in this thing. He can't fucking pull out now, right? He's fucked us, and he's, and he can't like save face and say, he can't save face and back down at the same time. And Trump, it's always what people think about him. And so he's got to make these false promises, and there's no promises. There's no way to get out of this. And they're probably scrambling, but Canada knows they got us by the balls, right? These other countries. And, they're just going to wait. They're just going to wait it out until the American people pressure Trump to put his tail between his legs and back down. And then Trump's fucked because everyone's going to realize this is the point where she knows that Trump is not the guy that everyone said he was. Or maybe she doesn't know because she's so culty. She seems to believe in that bullshit, right? But she knows she's bullshitting. And so this is like, oh, but no, it's going to work out in the end. This is going to bring manufacturing back into the country, right? So that exchange, right, was where I saw this first as MSNBC. And those ghouls over at MSNBC get to gloat now. Like, that's how bad this is, right? We're only 2 months in. There's war with fucking Canada, and grocery prices are going to go through the roof, and everything's ass backwards and, worse than it was before under Biden. And Trump doesn't have a solution. And they're just saying this is a long-term fucking plan. And you know how long it would take for manufacturing to come back to America where they build the plants here? Trump won't be president, and the Democrats will reverse all his policies by then. And so, all these things he's doing, they would only, unless he's going to try to stay in office and he will declare a national emergency and do what Zelensky's doing and not hold we get into that because I have this exchange. I'll probably cover this next video between Tucker Carlson and Cuomo's about this whole thing with him not honoring elections. They get into this weird debate, but MSNBC gets the gloat now because Trump doesn't have a solution, and a long-term solution isn't what he promised. He promised immediate reversal of food prices, which now he's backing away from. Like, he doesn't follow through on what he says because he's a grifter.
Insulting that you're trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
I mean, she's awash in regret and remorse and offense. But
like this miserable ghoul giggling, right?
She's either tragically uninformed or lying. There is no economist that's been tapped to sit in Donald Trump's cabinet who would testify under oath to what she just said. Quote, tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. Simply the opposite is reality.
Like she gets to giggle. Like I've never seen her giggle. Like she's giddy over this fucking thing.
Why do you think they're on such a furious propaganda mission around the tariffs?
I think that Donald Trump has a very, very unusual, idiosyncratic, and completely incorrect understanding of how tariffs work. You can.
Like that's true. Like that's fucking true. That's funny because it's true. Like he doesn't know how tariffs work. I know how tariffs work. You probably know how tariffs work. Everyone else knows how tariffs work, especially now. I didn't know how tariffs work before. Like I kind of understood the word. You know, I didn't understand the implications, right? But there's a reason why they didn't use them. And they were saying this during the campaign, what would happen. And everyone thought, the Republicans are saying now, you know, to people, they thought he was just bullshitting. They thought he was just bluffing. They didn't think he would go through with it, right? And so he's the only fucking guy who doesn't understand unless somehow he's monetized these tariffs, and maybe he has, probably has. Like he's screwing everybody. You know, other than that, like he, at least in terms of his official statement, the official statement from his fucking dopes is he doesn't know what these things do or why they do it.
You can look at economists everywhere from the Libertarian Cato Institute to the left of center think tanks in Republican and Democratic administrations, aside from the Trump administration, and they all agree that tariffs function as tax increases on consumers. What happens with a tariff is that companies importing pay the cost of the tariff, and they mostly pass those costs on to consumers.
Which everybody knows. Like, everybody knows this. I explained this to you before. You probably know it already. But then almost everything about a tariff makes prices go up. Like I said, you know, if you put tariffs on something like steel, and therefore steel in America can go up in price because, you know, anything that's manufactured in America is, you know, there's like a price war. If there's two gas stations and one gas station is 2 cents cheaper, you go to the 2 cents cheaper gas station. If it's 10 cents cheaper, certainly you will, right? And so they have these sort of price wars. And so competition breeds, you know, a reduction in prices. But if now imports, whatever the import prices are, Americans' prices are going to be, the American companies are going to charge the same thing. So if import prices go up because of the tariffs, then American prices are going to go up also to match that price. They're not going, American prices aren't going to be less than foreign prices because they think most people want to spend money on American goods made in America. The fact that it's made in America means it's probably going to cost more money. And so they're not going to be lower than the imports, right? Unless they're being imported from Europe or some bullshit like that, some high-end thing. But other than that, it's going to drive prices up. It's fucking doing it already. It's what it always does. And Trump either doesn't understand it or he's scamming his people. But either way, he's fucked you, right? This guy, oh, he fucked me the first time. Well, he's fucked you again, and you didn't know that either. So you got fucked by Trump twice, and you don't understand why your butt hurts. So you look at the face. I said I was going to come back to this, right? So this was the White House threats of Canada if they cut off power to U.S. And then she gets into this story about Main Street and hometowns. Look at this perplexed look. Like they're all looking at her like, what the fuck? Right?
Well, just think about what the tariff policy long-term will do for our country. I think many of us probably grew up in small towns. I know at least I did, and the Main Street in my small town looks a heck of a lot worse than it probably did decades ago before I was alive. At least my parents and grandparents tell me so. And
my grandparents, my parents, and my husband, she's married to a guy 30 years older than her, tell me so. That my Main Street used to look a lot better than it does now. It's all run down and shit like that. But my husband remembers when there's a soda pop fountain store on the corner, and he used to go and skip to Maloo and go in there and spend a quarter for a milkshake with his pals. You know, like it's just like, what are you fucking talking about, right? Like Main Street isn't going to be restored because of manufacturing coming back in. You know, I mean, it's silly. Like just.
grew up in small towns. I know at least I did, and the main street in my small town looks a heck of a lot worse than it probably did decades ago before I was alive. At least my parents and grandparents tell me so. And I know many Americans feel that same way. What the president envisions for this country is for the United States of America to be a manufacturing superpower, where there are American factories and businesses owned by Americans, producing goods that we are exporting to the rest of the world. Those revenues will stay here. It will
Again, I've already explained this, and I'm not going to explain it again, but, it's based in labor prices, and also Americans are spoiled. Like, rich Americans you grow up rich and won't work as hard as people will in these other countries for less. The impoverished countries, this is always the case, right? Everything's more expensive when it's grown and done in America because everything's more expensive. Energy's more expensive and all the rest of it. Everything's more expensive. And so what we produce is going to be more expensive than any place else but Europe, like I said. And so you have to change everything to make that manufacturing come back to America. Now, maybe if we had robots and shit, yeah. Like robots might be able to work more cheaply than people, getting $1 a day in some shit, some third world country, right? Yeah, almost a shithole, but some, bad country. But like whatever it is, you can't redo all these things. Like they're just done. He's not reinventing the fucking wheel. The world is structured in a very specific way. And our economy, our world economy is hanging by a fucking thread. America's economy is hanging by a thread. And Donald Trump is a fucking moron. He's now, this whole idea, like I said earlier, I'm going to come back to this whole idea that this guy's a fucking genius and he has some know-how and he's going to show you and do things because he says so, that he's going to revamp all these things and he's going to change all these things because he says so. He's telling you what you want to hear, but you're too much of a dumbass to understand the complexities of what he's saying here or what he's saying he can do that he can't do. And so you don't know. You just, he's going to do it. I knew that somebody could just do this stuff, right? No, you don't. Like you just hoped it would happen. And it's fucking not, right?
increase wages for people here in our great country. It will ensure our national security, and it will boost the morale of the American people to have thriving industries again. Think about Detroit, Michigan. Think about North Carolina, as I mentioned, that used to have a thriving furniture industry that no longer exists because of the globalist trade policies of previous and past administrations. And the American people gave the
Okay, so how
president and a tremendous opportunity to restore American greatness and restore our manufacturing dominance, and he's intent on doing just that.
Okay, so let's be clear about this. You know, how long it would take to build all the factories and establish these things. They're not even going to think about doing that if they know the next administration is going to reverse it. Like these companies aren't going to invest in something based in Trump's policies. There's going to be no tariffs when Trump leaves. Either Trump, hands it over to J.D. Vance, which I doubt that'll happen. I think we'll have a Democratic president in 4 years. But even then, any kind of Republican president, probably even J.D. Vance, will be like, yeah, those tariffs are fucked, and withdraw them. And then these companies that were counting on these tariffs to build factories where the playing field had been leveled. So even then, it's not going to fucking happen, right? He's a dumbass, and he's a dumbass. You should know he's a dumbass. I don't know about this cult follower, this, doe-eyed fucking, bimbo. Just, I don't know if she knows because she's into it. But they know, in some point, and she knows that she can't come out and say, yeah, you're fucked for now, but it's going to get better later. It's going to get worse before it gets better because that's what they're saying without saying it. And that's not what the American people elected you to say. It's going to get worse because it was the worst president in history. I'm trying to fix all these things. They wouldn't have happened if I was here. Yeah, we've heard that bullshit before, like yesterday and the day before, and twice Thursday, right? And so, okay, so today's Thursday, March 13th for you guys playing along at home. So here was the next comment. These petulant Antifa SOBIOSISs, sobises, I don't know what that is, in drag are not the right. TBS is very real. Get help. So I'm not sure what this person was even referencing. But they're telling me to get help, right? You know, you guys are getting fucking duped. You're getting duped in a way that's like kind of hilarious. I mean, given how much information's out there, I can see you falling for Trump during the 2016 primaries against other Republicans. And maybe to whatever. Look, Hillary was so hateable. So I can see why people voted for Trump, and I was psyched Trump beat her. I didn't think anything was going to change, but I was so happy that the liberal media, and the way they were crying on election night, I was giddy. I was happy for a week. I knew enough Trump was a fraud. I watched The Apprentice. I knew he wasn't going to do. I knew like I know some of the things. Like he surprised me because some of the things you never know what Trump's going to do, because he says things, he promises opposite things to opposite people, and he just talks shit. He makes shit up, and half the time he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And so, and of course, he has some handlers. So there were a few surprises. I thought he was going to be more warlike. I was happy that he wasn't, following through with some of the war shit that was happening under Obama, because he seemed like he was kind of aggressive and talking tough, these things. But there was, mostly it was pretty predictable. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He admitted on Joe Rogan. He had no idea. He was in business before. He had no idea. So he got elected, and he knew nothing about how Washington, D.C. worked, and he fucked it all up, right? All those, all the things that he did. He showed he was like just incompetent boom. But you think that maybe he learned something, and maybe he did have some, business sense, and he was the kind of guy that he promised he was, but he never was that guy. And so after he went out the way he did, Operation Warp Speed, I mean, the truth community should have completely just been like, fuck you to this guy. Don't let this guy back in. And then he just whined about the whole the election afterwards for 4 years. And he came back around. And of course, Kamala's horrible, right? And Biden had a horrible presidency, and they framed it. They made it possible with, allowing him to pull off that fake fucking embarrassing fake assassination attempt and all that shit. And so they wanted the guy. And they didn't want the guy because he could restore the economy. They wanted to blame somebody. He's a patsy. They want to blame somebody for the New Deal you're getting, right? The WEF. You think that shit ain't real? You think Agenda 31 isn't real? You think that if they could change the economy, they would? They can't. Anyway, they can't. They're fucked just as much as we are. They have to give you a New Deal that you don't want. And they don't have a fucking choice. And so, this is what's supposed to happen on a divine level. Our system's collapsing because it's fucking built based in demonic principles. It's based in debt. It's based in immorality. It's based in destroying the family. It's based in unnatural behavior. It's based in deviance and psychological deprivation. It's based in all bad shit. And we see it's getting worse. Each generation gets worse and worse than the previous one. Less and less love, less and less family, less and less connectivity, less and less humanness, more and more stupidity, right? Less and less work ethic, right? All the things you see. Each generation gets worse than the last one. And so you think that this system should be saved and God wants to save it? Fuck no, right? It's a demonic system. We're all 100% dependent on it, so we're fucked. Like I say this all the time. It's not being black-pilled, it's just being realistic about where we are. And nobody can save us. Certainly not Donald Trump. And to cling to this idea that he will after so much evidence is piled on your fucking plate. Okay, so here's a true believer in Trump. A long-ass comment about the positivity of the terrorists. And this is a video. Does Trump wear diapers and shit his pants plus terrorists? Sure, no terrorists. Let's 100% destroy our manufacturing base. We are bullied. All countries unfairly tax our products. That's not being bullied, right? You think we're being bullied? Because like there's small taxes. I mean, not the kind of tariffs Trump is proposing here. It's just that our things are more expensive. Tariffs protect countries' manufacturing base. We had them in the 1800s. That's how the government was funded. They tax us as they tax them. Japan had them after World War II. Without them, there would be no Sony, Honda, etc. As far as the stock market insiders were selling out way before the election. See, Warren Buffett, his treasury guy, even says about Wall Street, it's about Main Street, it's in the market will drop. The stealing tax dollars was pumping money into the country. Government spending was boosting the economy. You better cut $10,000 checks into our hands or we are heading into a depression. Does Japan have any foreign engines and transmission in their domestic cars? Hell no. We put them together, their cars with the transmission and engines they ship here, to declare that they didn't tax our vehicles. In the days, they would tear down our cars, reassemble them, and slap 10K on them and call them an inspection fee. They weren't going to buy American cars in Japan because it's a small little country, and they had these small little cars, right? And I remember when my dad bought a Honda, because, the cars were just better, the Toyotas and Hondas, and there was gas price issues. And there's some of the reason Detroit fucked up, because they didn't understand the Americans couldn't drive these fucking big-ass boats anymore, right? Like, I lived through that whole thing when the American people didn't feel like American-made meant anything anymore. And they just started to buy foreign shit, foreign things that were better made, and cheaper. And so the American companies were too bloated, and whatever, tariffs, whatever other things that were going on there. But in terms of exports, the American worker became, entitled and indulgent, and wasn't going to work as hard for as much for as little money as their counterparts in these other countries, right? Like every once in a while you go to like Walmart and you pick up like a vice grip or a tool, and it's like $5. You're like, how the fuck can this thing only be $5? The steel itself, the materials have to cost that much, right? And so, these foreign countries have, this is a global economy where all these big corporations, all these businesses are multinational. They're multinational companies. And Trump's all about that shit, right? And if you're going to make it where America has manufacturing, you're going to have to cut the prices of labor, and you're going to have to demonetize, you're going to have to inflate the dollar. Like, it just has to happen. That's the only way to get manufacturing is that. Because it won't last otherwise, because things are just too expensive, right? Or you have to make real quality items that are high end. And like, it works for small businesses in Europe, small, market share in Europe, because they're small countries. It doesn't work here in America. Manufacturing is done for all those reasons. And the inflated, the debt-based system, the world clock, the national debt, and all the other debt America has accrued, the dollar's eventually going to collapse. And then manufacturing can come back, but only when you're desperate enough to work for a fucking $1 a day, the equivalent to $1 a day. It might be $10,000 a day, but it'll be $1. It'll be what $1 worth right now. And so, like, that's the only way to bring manufacturing back to America. Is you can't have your lifestyle and your entitlements and your work ethic when kids can't even get a job at McDonald's, and a high school kid, because they're too indoctrinated, they're too addicted to the internet and their cyber life, that they can't even be in the real world and do like a fucking shitty job at a fast food restaurant like all of us did when we were kids, right? Like, you don't have that kind of labor force here in America. Not if you're going to get rid of immigration. You're going to get rid of the labor force, the cheap labor force, which is going to drive up prices, because Americans aren't going to do those jobs, right? You can't do both those things. You can't be forceful about immigration and expect that manufacturing jobs and exports will go up, because the legal immigrants, are the cheap labor force that Americans have. And they're coming here because they make a lot more money than they would in their own country. So the tariffs are not going to work and do what you think they're going to do. You're just buying into Trump's bullshit. So I got a bunch of other comments to get to, but I want to get rid of all the Trump ones. So here's another one. Paul used to be funny. Loved him covering Alec Baldwin. His TDS is growing by the day. Fight the urge, Paul. Get back to being funny. I think I'm pretty funny with talking about Trump, right? I think it's pretty fucking funny. I think Trump's pretty fucking funny. Not in a good way. Not in a way like, you're laughing with him. It used to be more laughing with him. Occasionally I laugh with Trump. Occasionally he's actually funny, in a way that's funny. But mostly he's funny because he's fucking clueless about how bad he sucks. And the whole thing's imploding on him. And that's pretty fucking funny. It's pretty fucking funny that the people who follow Trump still don't see through it, even though the evidence is slapping him in the fucking face. They don't even know they've been fucked the first time. I think that's pretty funny. I think it's all pretty funny. I think I'm pretty funny, even more so now with Trump. You do realize college hazing still happens, right? Not sure what you're obsessing over here or your fascination with someone's digestive issues. Well, they're talking about how J.D. Vance wore this blonde wig. And it wasn't him just wearing a blonde wig. Like, I would have never, there's a time where I was using lots of drugs and drinking. I would have never been in a party where I would have put on a blonde wig and a dress and girls' makeup. They're saying college hazing happens. But this other, but not sure what you're addressing here or your fascination with somebody else's digestive issues. Some dude said that Trump used to shit his pants on the set of The Apprentice, a guy who worked there, and it may or may not have happened. But, you guys didn't have any problem when I covered Joe Biden saying, my butt's been wiped, right? Like, you didn't have any problem with that. But now all of a sudden you're bitching about, all of these other things because it's about Trump. Like I said, Trump is old and Biden's old, and if they shit their pants, it's funny. We're pretty sure Biden shit his pants, and I'm pretty sure Trump did as well. And, him wearing a diaper, your president wearing a diaper. Have you seen Kyle Dunnigan's where he does Trump, or he does Biden come out in a diaper? It's funny. It's just funny. Like, it's just something to laugh at. It might not be true, but it very well could be and probably is. You sound like a Democrat, and I'm not for Trump either, but you sound super biased. Some of your commentary sounds absolutely nuts, not very zen, right? So anyways, this is where the Trumpers are going. Like, just and saying you're not a Trumper and being a Trumper, right? Like, don't pretend you're not a Trumper when you are. Like, don't pretend you're not upset by this because it's me talking about Trump. Because you are. Like, I'm not even a Trumper. Yeah, you are. Then you wouldn't be saying it. I don't sound like a Democrat. I shit all, the Democrats I shit on them even in this video. Even the videos I'm talking about Trump, I'm not pro-Democrat or pro-mainstream media, but the mainstream media gets to go off because Trump has fucked it, right? Trump is, messed this whole thing up. One more clip here, and then I want to read some of the spiritual comments and things about Jesus and things like that. I got a bunch of those comments to get to as well. I got one more clip to get to, but I want to get to all these Christian comments and spirituality comments because they're kind of important. I want to address them while they're fresh in my mind. Then I got another 5 to 8 clips about this whole thing, this whole, debacle with Trump. Like, it's just blowing up. They're having a party over there in liberal media. But, 2 more things to add here as I was going through the clips and putting them together. It's things I forgot to say. So you think that companies want to invest in a dying America? Like, everyone knows America's on its last legs. Like, America's dominance, the empire's collapsing. And, it's morality first, and they don't care about that, the business people. But that's what happens. The moral breakdown in a society, that's how empires collapse because they're, the people become immoral. One of the definitions of morality in Sajmarg is the proper utilization of your resources. That's also your time and your sexual energy and your energy in general, right? Like, you have resources as a person, and when you misuse them, that's immoral. You have a purpose, and those resources have a purpose, and when you indulge in things that, take away your energy, take away your life force, and give you cancer, all the things. Like, immoral food system, immoral, TV programs, and, all of it. They're not necessarily, moral in the sense, they have immoral content, but the things themselves are taking people away from what they're supposed to be doing, their soul's path, their soul's purpose. And that's clearly happened in America, the complete breakdown of the proper utilization of your energies, your resources. And America's failing, and everyone knows it. Like, America, they're already making plans to dump America. Plus, they can't pay for your entitlements, the promises that have been made to you about Social Security and your lifestyle and electricity and running water to your house, all the things that you think are, your lifestyle is out of stock. You think they want to invest here, right? That's why they started invested in these other countries. They have workers that are hungry and willing to work and, do these slave jobs, all this stuff. That's why they're, America is being sort of thrown away. It served its purpose. And so they're not going to come back. So this whole thing about Trump saying this bullshit. The thing about Trump that makes him worse than Biden and these other people is he embraced truther narratives, but he's not really a truther. He flirted with truther things, flirted with the truth community. He emboldened the QBs. And then he's going to, we're going to be linked to his bullshit. And a lot of you guys deserve it because the truthers didn't call bullshit on his fake assassination attempt and his other things. And they were like, well, Kamala's a nightmare, so let's just back Trump again. And I'm like, yeah, that's not being truthful, right? And so let me come around. I want to show you this one last clip here. And then I'll get back to what I'm saying here. I'll continue this on the other side. So here's this.
Chris started the video sharing platform Rumble in 2013 with a mission of protecting a free and open internet from censorship by big tech and governments around the globe. The platform has always been a place for independent creators to share their authentic opinions, and they have always included President Trump, in contrast to the way he was censored by other platforms in years past.
Okay, so, I did a little stint on Rumble to get my stuff out. I'd been long, and I did 4 videos. I didn't complete it. I don't feel great about it. I want to see if I can put my videos up on my Apocalypse Now channel. I don't think that they will be allowed there yet. But, censorship has kind of gone down on YouTube. I just don't love the platform, and it doesn't suit me. But, I'm not feeling good about it. It doesn't make it better that she's promoting it. And they're hiring this guy for something, right? This guy is being promoted. If there's free and I don't know, I guess you can probably criticize Trump over there. I mean, I'm not sure, it seems like a Republican-based platform. But, Trump is a fucking disaster. And, these guys, these truthers, and this was I was talking about just in the last, anybody's a truther who's promoted Trump because he seems a little bit better, or agrees with you a little bit more than Biden. When he cultivated the relationship with the truth community, he was fucking us over because he's a scumbag grifter. And when his grift blows up, we're going to get collateral damage like we did the first fucking term, right? There's going to be more censorship, and they're going to show how dangerous free speech is. This whole thing.
Since its founding, Rumble has grown exponentially, recently marking 67 million monthly active users. It's a lot of users. If you're watching right now...
That's a lot of users, bro.
...now and interested in sitting in this seat, you can apply, whitehouse.gov/new media. With that, I will take your questions. And Chris...
So they want to get people on from Rumble because, this whole thing, right? And just all of it. But he's trying to surround himself with Trump. And I said he should have done this his first term. But, like the thing he did with Truth Social, I said he should have done that his first term. And he did do all these things. He's doing them now. But it's like he's, he needs negative feedback. He needs to hear what a piece of shit he is because, he is a piece of shit, right?
So why don't you kick us off on this very busy news day?
Carolyn, thank you very much to you and President Trump. It's an honor to be sitting here in the new media seat for the White House press briefing and to be able to demonstrate why freedom of expression is so important.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House.
Okay, so this was that whole thing. So I would like to hear the Rumble question. This is some old video that came up about this. We know this was covered. And the title was Press Secretary Panics When Reporter Won't Back Down, which we heard this exchange. It's a past thing. But let me go to the comment here. I want to say one more thing about Trump on the other side, the voiceover, and I'll start reading the comments. My wife and I were driving together yesterday. We were looking for things to listen to. We looked at some Joe Rogan things and some other podcasts. And we listened to the Woody Harrelson interview, which was pretty interesting. Woody was kind of stoned. But he clearly said some truthery things, like real truther stuff. Of course, he said that stuff on Saturday Night Live. And what he was saying about COVID, and he said this about wars. He said, all right, you can say wars are necessary and the COVID stuff, the bloop and all that stuff is necessary. But then why do people have to profit from it, right? Why do people have to profit and monetize this stuff? Because then it looks pretty fishy, like maybe you created this market, maybe this is fake, whatever. And Joe Rogan and him were talking about this, and Joe Rogan said something interesting about malinformation, that he was presented, there's disinformation and whatever the various information things they say. But malinformation is information, things that are true, that are deemed a threat to the system. And, malinformation is pretty much the reason for censorship in the truth community. What they want to do is find disinformation and make it sound like everybody in the truth community is full of shit. And, when you're on the wrong side of things, like they were on the wrong side of the assassination attempt, all these truthers, then you become more of a disinformation person because you're pushing out the mainstream disinformation, right? And you're doing what they want you to do because Trump was, he was going to be elected again. This is rigged. This is a scripted thing. This is made to happen. And if it isn't made to happen by the powers that be, it's certainly made to happen by divinity. And one of the big problems with truthers is they think that the people I call the controllers, what they call the elite, are in more control here than God is, right? At some point you have to realize that God is, running things. There's a plan. And everything that happens is something that God has allowed to happen, or as, it's a part of the divine system. There's some reason for it. Everything happens for a reason, right? What the fuck does that mean? If that's not true, then why does everybody say it? Like, if everything's happening for a reason, then you have to deal with the shit that doesn't make any sense, that's bullshit, that's freedom of choice. And I'll get into that in just a moment with this other stuff here. The divine comments, because I had this one, there's this clip of this girl who was, it was good to see like this possible indigo children kind of consciousness, kids being aware of divinity within you, right? Which is the solution, because when you connect with God, the divinity within you, you're just a better person. You might still suck, but you're better than you were before. And like, you're going to get better and better. The more you cultivate that relationship with the divinity within you, you're going to improve, right? Everyone has a, trajectory of embracing their inner, when they embrace their inner divinity, it's an upward trajectory. You can't be any other thing until you break that. Like, unless you break that, then, that's your ego saying, fuck this, it's too hard, I don't want to do it. But as long as there's connections with the divinity, you're just getting better and better because you have no choice, because God becomes more and more important to your overall influence. And so I think this is the comment here I want to start with. Well, I'll just read this one because it's funny. Paul has mommy and daddy issues he has to get over before anyone should listen to him. So many signs that this is the apocalypse. And so I'm not sure what prompted that person to say that. This is not the one it's another comment I'm looking at here. I'm just going through the comments trying to find, I should stop this here. Okay, so I found the comment. Before I read that one, I just want to respond to this one. It's kind of funny. I got a chuckle out of that. But, I almost never think of my mom or dad. Like, it's not, if I have issues, it's not, of course, everybody does. But they're not mommy and daddy issues, right? But anyways, this person writes, appreciate that you have the confidence to watch these Christian videos, even though you don't follow the same doctrine and scriptures, but you still have an open heart to its followers and message. Well, certainly I feel blessed by my Catholic upbringing. And I maybe should clarify this here. My mom and my grandmother said the rosary and prayed. And I know that my brother and myself coming to Sajmark was a part of that, right? My mom met Master Chargy. I mean, she died a Catholic, but she really enjoyed the meditations. She felt the energy. She liked it. She did it for a while. And, growing up in a religion is supposed to be a good thing. The Swami Vivekananda, growing up in a religion is a good thing, but dying in it is a bad thing. You want to die in a religion. You want to evolve to be spiritual, what Jesus did. I had that dream where I said that, the second master of the system, Babaji used to intercommune with all these people, these higher developed souls. He had conversations with them, mostly his master Lalaji, who died, 13 years before Babaji became the second master. So it was a kind of, most of his work happened after Lalaji had passed away. He only met him, he went to Lalaji's house like 7 times or something like that. And, he didn't really interact with them all that much, but they had spiritual interactions in the etheric world, and Babaji was a great medium. And he went to Jesus and said, all these Christians are coming here. People were coming from America and Europe who were born Christian. And he said, do I have permission to train them? And Jesus said, yes. I mean, according to Babaji's diary, you can believe it or not. He said, yeah, and I want you to take over Christianity for me. So that, is something I believe. You don't have to believe it. And Jesus is supposedly in charge of point 2. There's these 13 yatra points, and the soul point 2, Jesus is in charge of, and he's a part of the Sajmarg mission. He's, these etheric beings, they don't stop doing God's work once they die. They go up into what we call the brighter world, and they continue on helping, trying to make this planet, help humanity rise up to its higher nature, which most of the results have been poor, right? There's all these higher developed divine beings that are in charge of, like people call angels, elevating human beings to a higher level of consciousness, which we have in us, but we fail to embrace. And I've talked about the reasons for this for a number of videos, and I don't have time to cover it here, but it's there. And so anyways, with this idea, what I just said about this story between Babaji and Jesus, I was in, just came back from India, and I was in, I believe, I was in Vegas for a while in Utah. I think I was in Vegas, outside of Vegas. And I had this dream, and I said, I walk up and Jesus is sitting at a table, like a picnic table, or maybe it's a chair, whatever. The details are unimportant at this point. But he was sitting down, and I walked up to him and I said, all these Christians are coming to my channel. Can I tell him my understanding of, Christianity and your teachings? And he says to me, yeah, that's why I'm sending them to you. And I wake up. When I have these kind of dreams where I wake up fully awake, I'm doing athletics, I'm just, you feel alive when you're running or doing something, where you're not groggy. When the Sajmarg system, when you dream about a spiritual master, it's supposed to be the master. So in terms of that definition, I just interacted with Jesus. It's my only interaction with him. After years of being a Catholic and going to these prayer meetings with my mom, I don't think I never had a dream with him, none of these things, right? And I wasn't thinking about him. It just came, like that. But, in terms of him saying he's sending people to me to tell them the truth about Christianity that they're not getting from their religious leaders. And there was a reverend, a guy who was in charge of a church, a pastor. He used to listen to my videos, and he knew that I was saying shit that he knew to be true, that he wasn't hearing from the religion, and he was having struggles with it. He wrote to me a few times, but he knew I was right about all this shit, right? And because it is I am, because it's just, but it's not like I'm against Christians or Christianity, or certainly Jesus. Whatever is good, and Jesus is a part of this. The third master of the system grew up in, he went to various schools, like private schools, and one of them was a Christian school in India. So he read the Bible and studied these things, and he was St. Paul in a previous existence. He was, Babaji was Patanjali in a previous past life, the father of Ashtanga Yoga, and he was much more evolved in this life. Whatever he achieved in that life, he built on it. And Charji, his disciple, was a disciple of him in a past life. And Charji was also St. Paul with Jesus. He had been a part of these things. And what he did as St. Paul for Christianity, he did the same thing for Sajmarg. He's the exact same guy. Peter Jennings did an interesting report about St. Paul that I watched, and I need to get that. It's on a DVD. And everything he said was exactly describing this guy Charji. Just Charji was better now. He was more evolved because Sajmarg has more, the transmission, the cleaning allows for deeper connection to divinity within you. But let me read this comment again, because I want to say this is a broad statement. And did I X'd out of it? Because of course I did. But here it is, I got it. I appreciate that you have the confidence to watch these Christian videos, even though you don't follow the same doctrine and scriptures, but still have an open heart to followers and messages. I'm not even sure which video they're talking about. I don't think that girl was Christian. I think she was New Age. The video was The video she commented to was so many things, signs that this is the apocalypse. And what I want to say here is every moment is the possibility for change, right? In the Sizemore system, as long as there's life, there's hope. So you never give up hope for your family members or anybody, even someone like Trump. Like they can have a come to Jesus moment or, come to spirituality moment, right? And so, that's like the attitude we're supposed to take. That each moment's new. Like every new is a fresh moment with an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get back on the right path, to redeem yourself, to work towards your spiritual goals, to connect to the divinity within you, and just all those things, to do the right thing. There's always a possibility for change. And these are just one opportunity after another. And so, when I watch these things, I can say, this is good. I agree with what Trump's doing here, like the ending censorship. But then, there's a mixed whatever. Most of the stuff they're doing is negative or wrong. It just is. They're making egotistical decisions that go against God's will. And so that's what I talk about, because that's mostly what they do. And if they do something good, I'll say it, But what they do is good on the outside, but necessarily not good internally. And that's something that, you can't really know what their intentions are, but you kind of do, right? You kind of know what kind of people they are. And so their words might sound good, but they don't really mean anything because they don't believe them. And Trump isn't a truther, and he isn't a godly person. He tells people what they want to hear. And he's good at that. And people are good at, falling for his bullshit. Okay, so let's get to these other comments. So these were the old ones, and I got some new ones here. So this is a video. At some point, MAGA fools will realize that Trump F them again. That's why I got comments to that. And the person writes this: once people start to realize the revelation has already happened, Jesus has had his 1,000-year reign and we're living in the little season afterwards, and Satan has been loosed, then all the conspiracies fit together. We have been lied to about everything and can't agree on anything, and we're all deceived about the times we are living in. There are channels on here that are putting this together, and they are worth listening to for your ears to hear. The thing about it is it's just a very remedial teaching, the Bible. It's not great spirituality. It's like even Jesus' good teachings are, spirituality 101. And, Jesus did a great thing by growing up in a religion and transcending that religion and going to India and getting spiritual training and evolving, which is not a small thing, but his teachings and his system was corrupted almost immediately. Here's one here. I just want to get through this. This is a comment from the bots. Women's clothes, wig, and a chain necklace. This is a person's comment. Seems like that might be around the time of him being purchased. I always forget, LOL. Thanks for blessings and grateful, and blessings and grateful, the person wrote. So she was commenting on J.D. Vance wearing a wig and a necklace, and, that he was compromised then. And this was YouTube bot response. It is not the goal of this channel to determine if any particular person is a bad person, just that we all are capable of change and that change is possible. Now, that kind of feeds into what I'm saying here, which is weird. I didn't mean it for that. I forgot about that comment. But, it's a weird comment from the bot, right? Because it doesn't apply to the thing or whatever it is. Okay, so here's another comment. Oh, good people. Hey, good people. One thing I find difficult to accept is that everyday horrific occurrence, such as animals being ripped to shreds and eaten alive in the wild, or human infants being tortured and sacrificed to demons, is part of God's will. Why put your creations through such overwhelming, painful torture and sadness? This is also to the same video. At some point, the MAGA will realize Trump has fucked them. The response to this, and I've said this thing over and over again, is always the same. That God has given you freedom of choice. See, you could have a Borg mentality. And, in the Sizemore system, one of the great teachings is that your soul in the etheric world and whatever it is, right? There's also, souls going through the transmigration of the soul, where your soul goes to lower level creatures to higher level creatures, and then something like a dog or a cow or something that's around people, a cat, pets, something that's serving people, that eventually that love it has for its connection it has with the the master of the pet master, the owner, and the love that dogs share, dogs particularly, and it elevates them to become a human being, right, in a future existence. But what he said was that the soul travel to where you become a conscious human, whatever it is, through the etheric world or whatever it is, in the animal kingdom, that's automatic. So your soul is wherever it is when the universe was created. It starts evolving and starts to understand creation more and more, and all of it, right? And then you become a human being, and then you can go from where you are as a human being to merging with God, which is the ultimate in this realm of, there's higher realms than this, but this is as far as you can go. And that's what the Sajmark system is supposed to help people do. But it's completely based on your effort and choice. And so whatever you do here as a person, your spiritual evolution is not at all guaranteed, and you can choose to go the opposite direction and fuck everything up, right? And then after that period where you get liberation, where there's these two goals, merging with God or liberation. Liberation is a lot easier to achieve, and that's where you no longer have to have any future lives as a human being. You have graduated this video game, this simulation. You have won the game, right? And so you're out. But you might come back just to do God's work, and there are higher developed souls that do that. But you don't have to come back. Unless you're ordered to, but it isn't that you're bound to planet Earth because you haven't graduated this school. You already have. And so once you enter into that phase where you've graduated school, you graduated Earth, and you're on a soul level, everything becomes automatic again. It just, there's no, it's not by choice. You're just evolving naturally. But you have this one area where you're a human being, where you can go from the lowest to the highest, the lowest, human being to the highest level of your spiritual evolution. And it's only by effort and choice, right? And it's a unique opportunity. And understanding that also, that this is a simulation, it's a joke. Like, this is just whatever's happening, it's not really happening. It's Maya, it's illusion, right? It's, it's not, your soul is what you really are. And your soul's, in this world, this fake world, like just if you're playing some video game and this shit is happening, bad shit happens in video games, and is it really so bad, right? It maybe affect you and, your consciousness because you're indulging in bad behaviors in the video game. But it's affecting your internal world because you're getting, you have these things that you're acting out, depraved thoughts and depraved desires, and like Grand Theft Auto or those kind of fucking games, right? And so it's not like they're beneficial, but it's still just a video game. And so is Planet Earth. It's a place where you get to, go. Your soul gets to, your ego that is created from your soul gets to make its own choices, and it can choose to evolve or not. And mostly the people choose not to evolve spiritually. So this silly argument that people make that why did God let bad things happen? Well, God given you freedom of choice, so there's no choice in it. I'm going to open up these other comments here. This one. So what's the take on Jesus' second coming? Do you believe we are living at the end times? I really like the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation, nobody knows who wrote it. They say John, but not the John, the book of John. Like not the guy not that John. Like some other John wrote the book, but they're not even sure where it came from. And it came years later. Like the book of Revelation didn't happen right after Jesus' death, right? So you have Jesus' disciples who wrote things when Jesus was alive and then are intercommuned with him afterwards. A lot of the Bible is channeled where Jesus appeared to them in soul form or through dreams or inspiration. And so Jesus didn't write the Bible. That's things that you gotta know. He didn't write a book. Like if he wrote that book, it'd be different. It was books about Jesus, which are good but not as good. Like there are books in Sage Marg about the masters, and then there's the books the masters themselves write, and the ones the masters themselves write are more profound. So Jesus didn't write this book. And some of it was directly after he died by his disciples, but St. Paul never met Jesus, and he was a higher developed soul, and he was great at what he did, but he wasn't he wasn't with Jesus. He didn't meet him, and he wrote these letters, Paul's letters to the Corinthians and these other things that became part of the Bible. And again, they're valid and have good points to them, but they're not. This is the time frame. And the book of Revelations came, let me just look that up real quick. So they think it's 100 years after Jesus died. That's why they say it was written by John, but they're not sure if it's the Apostle John. They call him John the Elder. And, the thing's very sketchy. And they added it to the Bible. So Jesus has been dead for 100 years. And this guy writes what's kind of an epic. It's got where the Antichrist is going to come down with 666. That's where all that shit comes in. The end of times, a trumpet's going to blow. I read a bunch of it, right? You guys remember, I don't know which video, I read a whole bunch of this, the book of Revelation. It's kind of crazy. I found it interesting when I was a kid. The prophecies that are in the Whispers of the Brighter World, these 20,000 channeled messages from this French woman that was in contact with Babaji and these higher developed souls. And the prophecies are very specific, and some of them are time. So, they're time specific. Like there's supposed to be one big event that's going to kick off the tumultuous end of this system, like what we would consider the end days. And it starts next year, and the end of this year, 2025, the beginning of 2020, sometime between December 2025 and February 26. The message says in 25 years, it's given February of 2001. So that, take that for what it's worth. And then these things are supposed to happen, these upheavals and tumultuous events, which already seem to be kicking in. And so there are going to be things that are going to, the layout of the continents are going to change. Very specific. I read a bunch of these things under Whispers, Prophecies, whatever I called it. The video somewhere there. I don't know if somebody can link it in the comment section. I'll pin that comment to the top of this video if somebody has a link to it. Like I would do it, but I'm lazy and don't, But anyways, that's my understanding of that stuff. This person writes, I talked about this Indian movie where they are promoting a lesbian love story, and I found that shocking for the Indian culture. And it was on Netflix, and it seemed like it was Netflix pushing that. But here's an Indian woman who, she's written comments. She hasn't written comments in a while. I think she had something to do with heartfulness. I'm not sure. But she writes, for a while now, Indian movies have shifted towards promoting lesbianism and LGBTQ-related content with a lot of A-list actors playing these roles. Yes, the culture has shifted, and Indian movies openly promote nudity, sex, and obscenity in movies. I've seen the obscenity, which I was pretty shocked about. Very, like a lot of potty mouth. Everything is depraved. Morality has gone down the toilet. This was some of the predictions that were going to happen. Here's a next one. That's the one I already read. Here's the last two of these. Here we go. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a comment section without a Jesus with Jesus is the way, the light comment. LOL. You are the way. You are the way once you pull your head out of your ass. LOL. So that person's commenting that there's always these comments that people say, and this person wrote, this was a comment I saved before that, and they were right next to each other. God is only if you accept Jesus in all caps as your Lord and in all caps Savior, just this S in caps. If you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and so a person's got some effed up capitalizations here. Trying to get to the Father, and that's in all in caps, without Christ, all in caps. So trying to get to the Father without Christ makes you a thief and a robber. Yeah, fuck you too. You're just that's stupid, right? Because they said so in some fucking book. It's not even true. God's within you. You're not a thief for connecting. God is in everything, and so, but you have to go to Jesus to get to get to the God within you. It's silly. The God's within you. God's there all around you. God's everywhere, and you're a thief when you're taking from God's will, but you're not respecting the divinity that is responsible for everything and everything and everybody. Right? You see the divinity within you, so that's being ungrateful. And your religion sucks because it's got this bullshit teaching that keeps you down and keeps you disconnected from divinity within you, which is making the world into a shit place and making it to a hell on earth. And you're still buying into that bullshit. Very similar the way that, there's a lot of Christian Trumpers. The way that people buy into Christianity, even though a lot of it, as you get older, and if you think about it, doesn't make any sense, especially the Old Testament. And that there's so much more. It's just a remedial book. It's something like, it's good for you when you're a child. That's like kindergarten. But you don't want to stay in kindergarten forever. And because you're in kindergarten spiritually, you get duped by someone like Trump who's kindergarten mentally. And so it's a fucking kindergarten. There's a bunch of kindergartners out there making adult decisions. And, that's probably why the world's so fucked. Anyways, let's tally-ho. Let's wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramount, definitely reporting for the apocalypse. And the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.